Hi, this is Matt Witte, William Ravis Real Estate. I'm here with fellow colleague Debbie Lucci, who's also an agent and she runs her own team out of the Andover office. And we got an exciting podcast for you today. So, Debbie, what are we talking about?
We're going to talk about my favorite subject, and that is downsizing. And those are my people. I love those people because I can relate to them. I've gone through it, so I totally understand how they're feeling. They're my people. That's probably 95% of my clientele when I list property is the downsizers.
No
So,
kidding. And when did
yeah.
you start picking up that niche? I assume it's not something you just initially said, you know what, I'm just starting real estate, so I think I'm going to go after downsizes. When did that happen?
So I started going after people that were, you know, that were that the same age group as my kids. My kids were going to school, middle school with their kids, and I've been marketing to them for years. And then it just happened that, we're all getting a little bit older and we're downsizing now. So it's that same group of people that I've had for a long time. So, yeah, and I can relate to them because it's such an emotional decision for some people. And the typical downsizer has, all kinds of stuff, and they can't get rid of it, and they paid $20,000 for the dining room table, 20 years ago, and they
Hmm.
don't know what to do, and they just don't want to throw it out, but but nobody wants it. The kids don't want it. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you're downsizing, your kids won't help you, and your kids don't want your stuff.
So how do you get rid of that stuff if they say, Debbie, we don't want to just throw it out. So do you have any, suggestions of what they
Sure.
do with that?
Yeah, so we use a couple services. One of my favorites is I love Sean from Dutiful Daughters. And, what I love about him is he's funny because he's one of these guys that he's like a little bit of antique type guy, little bit of junk guy, and a little bit of disposal guy. He actually knows how to deal with antiques, which I never knew. So he said to me, Debbie, we donate these pieces to senior centers. I mean, battered women's shelters. You think about it. I mean, these women literally walk out of their house with nothing.
Right.
So, and I think that that's really what the downsizers are looking for. They're not looking for the $20,000 they spent 20 years ago. They're just looking for, is this going to a good place? I hate to waste it. And that's really what it is. It gets rid of that guilt. And also, I just dealt with this myself, which is a really cool thing because, I just don't have time to deal with Facebook Marketplace, and that's another place if you want to get rid of stuff, but you got to have a little bit of time to do it.
Hmm.
I'm more like, you know, I need to go somewhere. I don't want to deal with it. I'm not nickel and diming you, but make my life easy. So I just got new furniture in my condo, and I felt bad because the furniture that I had was nice furniture. It was just getting a little bit out of style. It was kind of big and clunky, but it was beautiful. It was restoration hardware furniture.
Yeah.
So when they were taking them, and I used Mac and Company here in Andover for the new furniture,
Hmm.
and I'm so glad I did. It's beautiful.
Nice.
So when Mike from Ferric Movers rolled into the North End, which is his favorite place to deliver, can you
I'm
imagine
sure
getting
it is.
moving down those streets? So I take good care of Michael. So they come in, and what happens is they brought all the new furniture in, and they took all the furniture I had, and they brought it to Burlington Consignment, and now
Nice.
Burlington Consignment is going to sell it for me. So it
Awesome.
was so easy. So if you're looking for kind of easy breezy, that was the way to go. And then
Yeah.
you have, Trash Can Willie that, can help you with, and you've got
Yeah.
people that organize and can get rid of things. And, I mean, since, my people are the downsizers, that's my market. We have tons of people that can help you with those things. And
Is
but
that the
that's
biggest
what it is.
obstacle they have? Is that the biggest obstacle you think when they sit down with you? Like is it the concern of getting everything out?
Well, I mean, you think about it, you know, you've got pictures, you get all the kids' stuff, all the trophies. I mean, the stuff, the pictures from first grade. I mean, these kids are long gone, you know, and you get all the stuff and you don't know what to do with it. So,
Yeah.
it's funny. I've dealt with a lot of people, so they've actually taught me a lot of things. So one of my customers gave me this book, and it was because her husband wouldn't clean out a thing, so she bought this book for him, and it was called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. Okay, so what it is you have to think, you know, do I want to leave all this stuff for my kids?
Right.
Do I want to die in this house? And if you want to get back at your kids, it's really the perfect thing to do, right? Because it's going to take so long to clean it out,
For sure.
you know? Right. But so, what it was is there was a whole chapter just on pictures and what to do with them, but
Hmm.
she gave me this book, and it goes through the process of why that you really should be doing these things, and the best way to deal with them, and everything else. And it actually, because it's such an emotional thing when people downsize. You got to think about it. This is where my kids grew up. This is our family home, and it's emotional, especially, and I hate to say it, but it's emotionally more for us women probably than guys a lot of time.
Sure.
And it's like this next phase of life. And, you get so focused on the kids and the stuff that all of a sudden you're either single, or you're with this other person, and you're like, it's just us again. And there's
Right.
been, 25 years that have gone by, between just you and just you again. So
Totally. Yeah.
yeah, so it's very emotional, and it's a process with people, and you have to try to, walk them through it. And I kind of tell them a little bit of a story. I say to them, look, which is absolutely true. I'm going to tell you everything that you don't do because I've done it. If you want to know what to do, not to do, you just ask me. So I had a house in Gloucester. I had the house in Andover, had the house in Gloucester. House in Gloucester had a tenant in it. Finally got to a financial position where I could get the tenant out. I was holding on to this house for years. I'm like, I want to go back to, Gloucester. And finally, kids went through college. I finally financially could do that. And I went back to Gloucester, and I put a mattress, a 2-inch mattress on the floor. That was the only thing in the house. And I was laying there, and I'm like, why did I hold this house for this long? There's nothing going on here. Why did I do all this?
Right.
Okay. But I had to go through this emotional process, and it took years.
Hmm.
And, my son is watching me in this house. And he hasn't been in this house since he was a baby.
Right.
And he walks through the house, and I said, oh my God, there was 2 babies that used to take a bath in this sink. And he's like, no wonder you're having such a
Yeah.
hard time.
For sure.
And because I had all these memories of this house. And so, but I finally came to the conclusion, I think what tipped me over the edge was, um, I put it on the market in the fall, and it didn't sell. This was quite a while ago. And I did all this work on the house. I had the landscaping done. I had, a lot, about $24,000 worth of improvements in the inside because it had been
Mm.
rented so long.
Right.
And, it didn't sell. I pulled it off the market, but still, in my heart, I'm like, I don't know if I want to let this go. I think I'm going to have regrets. And then I went down to the Gloucester house, and there was this older woman at the bar, and she was trying to pick up this guy, right? And I'm like, if I don't get out of here, that's going to be me. I got to sell that damn house.
So
So what
good.
happened is I went back to the house, and all these crocuses are trying to go through the snow, and I'm like, oh my God, they're coming. If I'm gonna have to do the landscaping over again if I don't get out of here. So
Right.
between the crocuses and the older woman at the bar, that was what when I made my mind up. The house was going on the market. So put the
That's
house in the
perfect.
market. Right.
That's
Put the
awesome.
house in the market, and it sold.
Yeah.
Then bought a tiny little condo in Boston, right?
Nice.
Should have probably rented, okay? But the condo was 835 square feet. So still had the house in Andover, bought a little condo in Boston. Loved the condo in Boston so much. Furnished the whole thing, all brand new, the whole thing. So loved it so much that I really didn't want to go back to the house in Andover, but mentally could not make up my mind to sell that house. So I get these downsizes, okay?
Yeah.
I was probably
You've lived
worse.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
you've
I
lived it
was
and experienced it and felt it,
right.
and
As my son would say, "Ma, if you were your seller, you would probably fire you. You're so bad." You know what I mean? So I get the emotion of it. So have the house and the little condo in Boston, love it there. My son comes to visit. He's going to sleep in a pull-out couch. It's so small. So I'm like, I downsize too much. So don't do that. Don't
right.
downsize too much. Okay.
Yeah.
And then finally made the decision to sell the house in Andover. So now Boston is perfectly furnished. I have all this furniture in Andover, and I just finished Andover. It was totally remodeled. So
Mm,
I'm like, what am I doing? So then sold Andover, took every stick of furniture and put it in storage for
nice.
three years. So
Wow.
I paid, you know, family discount, right? We was even though we're family, we still have to pay for the storage unit, even though it's ours, right? That's
Yeah. Right.
that's how my family is, right? So pay $250 a month times 12 times 3.
right.
How much? All right.
Yeah.
How much? Why did I do all that?
Right.
So,
Good point.
so then realize the condo in Boston's too small. I solicit the building. I buy a 2-bedroom condo. Now all the furniture that was in the 1-bedroom condo doesn't really work. It's probably about $35,000-$40,000 worth of furniture. Give it to my daughter.
Okay.
Oh my God. So she's got a condo with brand new furniture in it, right? Buy the 2-bedroom, and then what happens is I take everything out of storage that I can from Andover, load it into the 2-bedroom, and then finally call dutiful daughters because I'm sitting there looking at this storage unit, what's left, and it was quite a bit,
Yeah.
and it looked like a past life on hold.
Yeah.
The dog stuff was in there. I mean,
Right.
I would go in there and I'm like, I can't, this is too much for me to deal with. It's going to stay here for another 3 years unless I get some help.
Right. Right.
Dutiful Daughters comes in. I pay them $800. They get some great furniture. I walk out of there, and one day that place is clean. They vacuumed it, everything else, and now I can
Nice.
go live my life in Boston, and it's done. So,
Right.
but how many steps did it take me to get to that final point, and how much storage?
Exactly.
I mean, and furniture, and we don't do those crazy things.
Right.
So, yeah. So, I mean, I can tell a downsizer really what not to do.
Yeah.
I can tell
That's
them a
good for
lot.
them to hear that,
Yeah.
because I obviously have not experienced that as of yet. In terms of the emotional part, like we started in a townhouse, there really wasn't a ton of emotion at that place. And then we're here. I'm sure this will be a tougher sell. But it's good to hear that, that you really need to have those Rolodex of people that can help you instead of
Oh,
putting it in storage for $9,000, $10,000 and, so on and
oh,
so forth.
do you know how many pots and pans I could have bought? 250 times, 36. Oh my God. You know, so
One
he
for each
helped
day
me
of the
out a
week.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have people that we've been dealing with for a very, very long time that are in our vendor guide that are really, really good that we've used personally. And then we have people that are in that guide also that, some of the agents from William Ravis have recommended.
Hmm.
And, I think it's a process. So I went over to a house probably about a month ago, and they were kind of nervous because they were like, Debbie, we're not thinking of coming on now. I'm like, that's all right.
Yeah.
And I said, when are you thinking of coming on? Are you thinking within the next year, 5 years? Because it's hard for me to make recommendations, with the difference of time. I might do things differently. You don't want to rip the kitchen apart, and you don't even get to enjoy it.
Right.
So I was over there, and they said, we just need some help. And I said, number one, if you're thinking about coming on this spring, and I've been saying this for 26 years, get the outside of the house fixed now.
Right.
Any wood rot you have, anything with the stairs, deck, landscaping, everything. Because really, one of the best times to come on the market is the early, early spring before anybody else does.
Right.
Okay? And weather providing, I mean, you can go on early. I see houses come on in January, February that do really, really well because there's no
No
competition.
competition.
And
Right.
and the buyers are sick of the stuff that's been, didn't sell in the fall.
Hmm.
So it's a perfect time to come on. So I said, no, 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 this is perfect. went through the house with them, made some suggestions. They're going to work on it slowly. It's no big panic, and they're going to get the house ready and they're going to come on at the peak of the market. So that's my favorite type of thing, and really what downsizers should be trying to do. So, don't feel uncomfortable about having us over early. All
Yeah.
it is making suggestions.
What's the average time you'd say if you took, I know this is a hard question to answer, but if you took all these downsizers over the years, would you say on average this is about the time from when you first meet to actually listing? And I know there's some that are outliers like 5 years and probably some that are 2 months, and that's kind of a crazy thing to do. 2 months, we talked about that. That's tough. But what do you think the average is? So people know to call you like, all right, when I'm starting to think about it, this is where I should be.
So I think most people call me too late, and then we're hitting panic mode. And then when they do is they come on in the spring market when everybody else comes on, and they're looking for landscapers and plumbers and electricians and
Hmm.
roofers, and it's like the 100 days of hell. That's what we call it, like the hundred
Right.
days of hell. And it's hard for the contractors too because they're booked, and we're trying to. And we have people, we can move them because we're calling in favors, but why go through all that stress?
Right.
So, you know, I don't think it's ever too early. I really
Right.
don't. I mean, even if you're thinking 5 years out, who cares? I mean, I've done CMAs for people for like 2 or 3 years in a row. They just
Right.
want to see where their house is, and like what should I do if I'm thinking of, um, and sometimes people need time to wrap their brain around it. Like one of the team members and I went out to this house, and to me, the biggest selling point was that floor plan, that kitchen. I mean, it was wide open. You could entertain like 100 people. I mean, it was beautiful.
Nice.
The cabinets were close. You know what I mean? If you put a coat of white paint on them, they were in great condition. There was a lot of them.
Nice.
Flip the knobs out, you know,
Yep.
and and then just change the floors out. I mean, they could make a lot of money. A lot of
Yeah,
money.
we've talked about a lot of the things you can do, like cost efficient things. What are some things that you would recommend you do not do that sellers might think? Because they ask me sometimes, they're like, should I do this? And sometimes they'll say, no, I would never do that. Is there anything you can think of?
I think a lot of times when people think, I think I think there's a list of priorities. I think painting is always a good thing. If you're going to invest in a kitchen, a bath, that's not a bad thing. I think if I had to pick like investing in doing over a lower level over a kitchen, I do the kitchen. You know what I mean?
For
Things
sure.
like that.
Yeah.
You, and the other thing is that downsizers have a hard time with, and I know it's hard because I did the same thing, but you enjoyed them is, those big heavy drapes, you need to
Hmm.
take them down.
Right.
And I know you paid a lot of money. I did too.
Yep.
I just brought some to the Salvation Army. It killed me, but
Yeah.
I wasn't fooling around for $50.
Right.
So, young buyers like a lot of light. You know,
Yeah.
they like light trim. They like light colors,
For sure.
things like that. So I think just trying to get more square footage out of a basement. And that would probably be my last investment. I do think, though, that if your basement's finished and if it's not heated, throw a couple of electric baseboards in. Now you can have it as finished area that's heated, and you can get more
Exactly.
square. Yeah, so
Yep.
that's a good idea.
That's a
But
good
I
move.
yeah, but I love to come over early in
Hmm.
comparison to the last minute because people have, let's face it, you have all the kids' stuff. They're not taking it. It's all on you. The dog passed. All that
Right.
stuff's hanging around. It's a big it's a big emotion for people. And I think
It is.
so sometimes what happens is another house I went over, they're like, well, we're going to find something in Florida first, and then we'll put this house on the market. And I said, okay, that's fine. I said, but let's get this house ready to put on the market.
Yep.
Okay. Because let me tell you what's going to happen. What's going to happen is you're going to go down Florida and you're going to find something and you're going to fall madly in love and you're going to have just that house in your head, and you're going to come back here and you're going to be overwhelmed and on panic mode
Hmm.
because I can see, the kids stuff, the decluttering, the family photos. I mean, a lot of furniture, all this stuff. I said, let's do this. I said, let's meet. I said, we're going to send a stager in. We're going to walk through. We're going to make suggestions. And I said, and we're going to do this. I'm going to give you a deadline. Because unless we have a little deadline, and I'm not saying I'm going to come back and, pressure you and you have to list the house by this time, but I'm
Yeah.
going to give you a little deadline. Okay? We're going to pretend. We're going to pretend that you're coming on the market at this time. So you need to do these things by that time. And trust me, it's going to be a lot easier than, oh, Deb, we found a house in Naples. Can you come over tomorrow and list the house? And the house is loaded with stuff.
Yes, right. And the
It,
pressure's
it's
really
all,
on.
it really
Horrible
is.
situation. Yep.
Yeah. So
Yep.
just that's it. When I sold I had a house on Rattlesnake in Andover, and I walked in, and I've been looking. I'm terrible. Looked for 4 years to find a house, and then fell madly in love and had to have it like tomorrow. So, but at least my house in Rattlesnake, I could hit a button and that thing was ready because I
Yeah.
had it show ready all the time.
Right.
So, yeah, so I think the best thing is if you're thinking about looking is to try to get that house, that family house ready ahead of time and have us over ahead of time. It's no big,
Yeah.
it's no big bother. And we just kind of check in with you every once in a while. How are things going? Do you need any, if they need plumbers, electricians, painters, we have lists of people that we can help them with.
Totally. I tell them when I come over there, I said, listen, I don't have a sign in my car and I'm not going to push that into the ground because they get scared, you
They
know.
do. They think you're going to be, the pushy salesperson. And the other thing I would do too is that I would get the house photographed this time of year or a little bit more, a few weeks out when the yard looks beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
and just put those pictures in your back pocket. Because we had a house at 39 Hawkins in North Andover, and that backyard was like an estate, and the
Mm-hmm.
pool and the privacy and the tree. I mean, it was beautiful.
Yep.
But by the time they finish what they're doing, because they had a piece of land next door, it's February.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't even look close to the same. But what
Totally.
happened is they had us out. We photographed that backyard, did the drone shots. It was beautiful. I'm telling you, that's what helped sell that house.
It does. It makes a huge difference. I told you the one on Walcott we photographed in the fall and that came on in the spring because we were talking winter and they just weren't quite ready yet. And it ended up getting to the spring, but still looked amazing in the fall, the pictures. We have one coming on Lacey in North Andover, and we took the photos already because they're not going to list until they said maybe December because they're building a house. So,
Right.
it's not always easy to time when we are going to put it in. Then you don't want to say, well, I guess we'll take photos in January with it where it's raw and it's a disservice to the property.
Right. And so you think about if this person's going to come on the market in December, how much you can get done. You can get that house to the point that you click a button on MLS and boom, it goes live.
Exactly.
Instead of just panicking and all this other stuff, and it just be such an easier process. And
Yeah.
then the person can focus on the house they want to build, or where they're going, instead of like this panic. You know.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's good for them to hear from us because we're not biased to the house. I remember I had an 80-year-old couple call me, the cutest couple ever, and they lived in this house for 40 years. And I went in and it was really, really old and they were not going to redo the kitchens and stuff like that. And that was
Mhm.
fine,
Yep.
given the health and everything else. So I said, we really have to get rid of these carpets. We have to just get a handyman in here to rip them all out because there's beautiful hardwoods under it. And
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
one of the two sellers said to me, and they said, people love carpets. And I said, no, they used to love carpets, but they don't love carpets anymore. Not on the first floor. Everybody wants hardwoods on the first floor. And we took
Especially
them
if
up.
they're right there.
Oh, they look so good. We took them up and they said, wow, these look so beautiful. I said, well, you preserved them for so long. And it made a huge difference.
Yeah, and you know what, Matt? Maybe they're afraid we're going to come over and say, "All right, you got to do this and this and this and this," and that's not really the case.
Right.
You kind of go by what the client feels.
Yeah.
And sometimes in the beginning when they have you over, some people are like, I want you to tell me everything and I'm going to do everything. Most people though are like, I don't want to do anything, and I'm like, Okay, then I'm going to give you some suggestions. I mean, I even sold a house. The woman was in her 90s. Okay,
Right.
that house was spotless.
Right.
Rated all 70s, but spotless, decluttered, spotless. Sold that house like that. I mean, you can go in that direction if you want. You don't have to have brand new kitchens and baths.
Totally.
But, right, on the other end, if you want to know, all right, I want to invest $5 in and make $10, $10 back, we can make those suggestions for you.
Exactly. And then you
Right,
make the final decision. Here are the different options,
right.
you know.
But one thing I see, I've seen a couple of times, which is really sad, is when people wait too long. And that makes me sad when I see people, I have one client, she had me over there for several years, and I could tell he just didn't want to sell. They were kind of tight. The medication was expensive, and they were thinking about selling, and he put it off and put it off, and then finally, what happened is it was loaded. The house was loaded with stuff.
Yeah.
It was they had microfiche from World War I or two
Wow.
or whatever.
Goodness.
Okay, it was a lot. And then what happened is he got dementia,
Right.
and then she was alone, and she had to do this whole house by herself.
Right. Yeah.
So you gotta almost plan for that. I know it's hard. I had another lady, last spring, the same thing. Her husband passed, and luckily she had kids in the area. What if your kids aren't in the area, and
Yeah.
then you're all alone by yourself? That's a lot.
It is a lot.
So
And that's something we deal with a lot is the family dynamic and
yes,
the siblings have inherited the home or like you said, someone has dementia and the children have power of attorney. It can be really, really, it's a huge group project.
it is, and I think now I just got off a Zoom call and we were talking about the economy and what they think might happen in the next few years, and it's a great time to sell right now. It really is, and think of it if you try to take the emotion out of it, which is hard. I know. I thought I was going to be buried in the backyard of Andover Street. I love that house so much. So, I know. But if you really try to take the emotion out of it, you don't want to be a burden on your kids and be too old to move out. Okay. And the thing is, when you get rid of all the stuff you don't need, like right now, I live in 1,500 square feet. I have a little storage unit that comes with my condo.
Hmm.
I don't have all the Christmas decorations and all the stuff that I don't need. I've got a few here and there that I can flip out.
Hmm.
It's freeing.
Right.
But you got to help these people get over the hump. I mean, I say to them, look, now I can travel. I
Yeah.
can go out to dinner. I can do anything I want. Where before I'm sitting there and okay, the lawn's got to be cut and the pool's got to be clean and all these things and this is got to be updated. So
Yeah.
it's different. It's very freeing to downsize.
Did you visualize yourself downsizing into a condo? Because I do hear people say I can't go from my house to a condo.
I love it. I mean, there's some pros and cons about condos, and we could probably even talk about that. I mean, that would be a whole other story. But there's
Sure.
pros and cons of a house in comparison to a condo. Um, I have a little bit of outdoor space. I also have parking.
Hmm.
So I have air conditioning. I have washer and dryer in the unit. I have two bedrooms.
Nice.
I have a living room, dining room. To me, I have everything I really need.
Hmm.
And to be honest with you, it only allows me so much space, so I only have so much stuff.
Right.
I think the more space you have, the more stuff you
You
have a
fill it.
tendency to
Yeah.
accumulate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all do that.
Yeah. So I like it because like last year I went away to this year actually I went away to Tampa for a month, worked remotely with the team and just shut the door and go out,
Yeah.
that's
You don't
it.
have to worry
Yeah.
about who's shoveling the driveway and
Yeah.
they make sure the heat's all the way up and the pipes don't freeze in the old house and all those things.
I think what made up my mind to downsize, really downsize, was when I added up every single bill that Andover Street cost me. I sat down and I'm like, this is what this house cost me to run a year. And I know it sounds stupid, but there's still 5 TVs from the kids being there. I never took the
Yeah.
TV out of the base. It just like it's all of a sudden it's like that's it, they're gone.
Right.
And I looked and I'm like, is this house going to go up that much next year? No, I am out of here.
Yeah.
This house isn't going up that much. I'm out.
It's a good way to
So
look at it. You
yeah,
know?
that I had a really, and I remember Chris Doherty saying to me, because I let somebody in the house, an agent who had a buyer, and I had the house ready to sell. I did a pre-home inspection. I knew what the value of the house was, so I was mentally there. I just wasn't ready to jump over that threshold.
Yep.
So they brought me an offer, and it was one I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh boy, this is a tough one to refuse.
Yeah.
And so my old boss, Chris Doherty, said to me, can you see yourself in that house in 5 years, Debbie? I'm like, no. And then the light bulb went off. Then you should sell.
Right.
Right.
That's why
Right.
he's
So
so good. He's such a. How easy was that? One
I
line.
know, but that's all it took. It took him. I sat down and added up all the bills,
Yep.
said, no way is this house going up this much. He said that to me, and the next thing you know, I signed the offer and it was gone. You
Right.
know, and I sat. I remember having a cocktail when the closing was taking place, and the lawyer called me and said it was on record, and I shed a few tears.
Yeah. Of course.
Right. And I couldn't drive by the house for like 2 weeks. I'm off.
I was just going to ask you that. If do you have you driven by it since?
Oh, I've driven by since now. I'm an emotional buyer.
Mm.
When I want something, I'm getting it. Like I
Hmm.
didn't care if the roof was caving in on that house. I fell in love with that house from the minute I saw it. I was buying it, and there was nothing kind of getting in my way about it. And I've always loved that house.
Yeah.
But it's the house was built in 1955. I did a lot of work on it, but it's a lot of maintenance,
Hmm.
you know.
That's
And
condo
because I
fee
was
in itself, right there. When people
oh
say, "Oh, I have a condo fee," so you've always had a condo fee.
yeah, you always have. And I was working 7 days a week, so I mean, I just go to the mailbox and like take out the bills, like, and it was just like, oh,
Yeah, because the mowings and the shoveling and you start mowing and shoveling too much, then you're not making money.
right, exactly. And I tried, I was doing it myself at one point when
Sure.
we had the house on Rattlesnake, and it was because I was working so much. By the time I got in the ride on, it was pitch black. I had the light going in the backyard because I couldn't see the grass.
It's so true, though.
It's true. And then I'm like, you really should get a landscaper because you
Yeah.
can't keep up with this stuff, right?
Yeah, it is funny though, but you like that. You're like, oh, I remember with the irrigation, I'm like, I can turn this thing on, like, and I get it going and stuff, but I don't have the tools to adjust everything, So,
Right,
you know,
right.
just it's a condo fee in itself.
Yeah, do what you do best. Go sell houses. Let the landscaper cut the grass.
Yeah,
But I really love it because, I mean, I go home and boy, Mac and Company did a lot of decorating in my house, and the kids aren't there, so it looks really good all the time. I mean, it really
everything's super clean and there's no
everything's
fingerprints everywhere, and
super clean. I go around overwater the house plants a little bit because I need something to do, and and yeah,
it's the
it's
things you miss.
great.
I opened the a cabinet today or yesterday, and I have a teenage son in the house, and I open the peanut butter is gone, and it's just sitting in the cabinet, and I'm like, does this make any sense at
Well, he
all?
didn't want to confess his sins that he took all the peanut butter, right?
Exactly, right? Yeah. So you certainly don't see those things in your cabinets, I'm sure.
No, but I like I'm glad I downsized, but it took a lot of it was an emotional journey for me to get there. I remember sitting in the house totally by myself, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you in this house? I know you're in love with it, but and I'm not sure if I told you that they had me go back and look at the house a year later.
Did they really?
Oh my God. So my father said to me, he goes, Debbie, you talk about that house like you're more in love with that house than you've been in love with men. And I'm like, I love that house. She's so beautiful. I love her. So I was really attached to her.
Sure.
So I was.
Yeah.
So I walk in the door and I'm like, don't get upset. These new people can't see you get upset when you walk in this door. And it was funny because I've told some of my team members this. Even though I owned the house, she's only borrowed for a time. And what happens is I walked in and another couple's wedding pictures were on the wall, and there were two kids going around yelling and screaming, and there was a dog barking. It was just different people.
Yeah.
It was the same noise. It was the same.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's a family house.
Right.
This is a different time in your life. You've done that.
Yep.
And she served a purpose. And it just made it was like you know when you have one of those moments you're like, wow. I mean,
Hmm.
it just resonated with me that this is what this house is, a family house,
Right.
you know.
What a nice
So
gesture too to have them have you come back.
well, they said to me, if we ever sell, we want you to come back because who knows this house better than you? And trust me, I could sell that house in 2 seconds because I love it so much, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I bet.
yeah, yeah.
Well, this
But
has been. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, and I just they've stayed.
Nice.
They've warmed up to the house now because it's a lot of maintenance. She's an older home, you know.
Right, for sure.
Yeah,
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing all these, personal stories that I'm sure the future downsizers can relate to, listening
yeah,
to this. You have such good experience with this, and I'm always excited to have the podcast, but I know this is really your thing. So it's nice to hear that. So,
yeah.
um,
So they should have us over early, Matt. You know, so they
100%.
can
Yeah.
prepare. Yeah,
Yeah, like you said, we
no
don't want
pressure.
100 days of hell. We want,
Right.
365 days of heaven, and that's the way to do it. Pace yourself with it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, how can people reach you if they have questions?
So my phone number is 978-771-9909, or they can find me on wherehomesgetsold.com.
Okay, and I'm at 978-273-0099, and I'm at wittesellshomes.com. All right, awesome. We have a bunch of topics lined up for the rest of the summer, so we will see you at the next round. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, Matt.